ancient times, there was a young man named Adasi who lived in a wealthy and bustling city. Despite his family's immense wealth and status, Adasi always felt a sense of inner dissatisfaction and unrest. One day, Adasi heard about a renowned Buddha who was giving a sermon in the city's temple. He decided to go and listen to the Buddha's teachings, hoping to find inner peace and answers. When Adasi arrived at the temple, he saw the Buddha sitting on a spacious podium, surrounded by a gathering of people. The Buddha's countenance was compassionate, and his gaze was bright, as if he could see into the hearts of people. The Buddha began telling a story about greed. In the story, there was a wealthy merchant named Beta who possessed great wealth and luxuries, yet he always felt discontent and desired more. He pursued fame, material pleasures, and sensory stimulation, but no matter how much he had, it couldn't satisfy his desires. Beta had heard about the wisdom of the Buddha, so he came seeking help. The Buddha told Beta, "Greed is the root of suffering. It makes you chase insatiable desires while neglecting inner peace and true happiness." The Buddha continued, "Beta, greed is like a fire that constantly burns your mind, causing you to lose yourself in the pursuit of desires. Only when you realize the nature of greed can you free yourself from the shackles of suffering." After deep contemplation, Beta decided to let go of greed and seek inner peace. He began practicing meditation and compassion, using his wealth to help others and engage in charitable endeavors. Over time, Beta's mind gradually calmed, and he experienced genuine happiness and inner contentment. As the Buddha's story came to an end, Adasi was deeply inspired. He realized that his own greed and pursuit of external gratification were the roots of his inner unrest. He made the decision to follow the Buddha's teachings, cultivating mindfulness and wisdom to free himself from the bondage of greed. Adasi, through observing his own greed and desires, gradually recognized their impermanence and transience. He started cultivating meditation and compassion, gradually reducing his attachment to and pursuit of the external world. With each step, Adasi felt a greater sense of inner peace and contentment. He understood that true happiness comes from within and is not dependent on external possessions or achievements. Adasi embraced the path of self-discovery and personal growth, knowing that by overcoming greed and cultivating mindfulness, he could live a fulfilling and meaningful life. So let us learn from Adasi's journey and remember that true happiness lies in finding inner peace, embracing mindfulness, and letting go of the never-ending pursuit of desires. By nurturing our inner selves and living in alignment with our values, we can experience the joy and fulfillment that come from within. Over time, Adasi's heart became calm and serene. He experienced true inner fulfillment and happiness, no longer plagued by greed. He understood that greed is the root cause of suffering, and that only through mindfulness, wisdom, and practice can one free themselves from its grip and attain inner peace and liberation. Greed, considered one of the afflictions in Buddhism, is a strong craving and a heart of greed that leads us to endless desires and attachments to external things and experiences. Here is an explanation of greed as the root cause of afflictions. Buddhism teaches us that greed is one of the root causes of afflictions, the source of suffering and ignorance. Greed is an attachment and pursuit of desired objects that engulfs us in material pleasures, fame, status, and emotional relationships. The presence of greed keeps us immersed in the ignorance of pursuing and satisfying endless desires. And ignorance is our unawareness of the true nature of things. The root of greed can be traced back to our misconceptions about self-existence. We mistakenly believe that by pursuing external material pleasures and satisfying desires, we can attain lasting happiness and fulfillment. However, Buddhism teaches us that this pursuit is endless and can never be satisfied because the impermanence and transience of the external world prevent us from fulfilling desires in the long run. Greed is also closely related to attachment. We tend to cling to things we like and desire to possess more. This attachment and craving distort our objective understanding of things and lead to a mindset of stubbornness and dissatisfaction. We become increasingly dependent on wealth, power, and sensory pleasures, neglecting inner peace and true happiness. Greed is also the root cause of afflictions because it keeps us trapped in the cycle of samsara. Our greed and pursuit constantly drive us to reincarnate in the cycle of birth and death. We chase after wealth and enjoyment, endlessly seeking external gratification while neglecting inner wisdom and liberation. This pursuit and greed trap us in an endless cycle, unable to break free from the cycle of suffering and ignorance. Buddhism teaches us to liberate ourselves from the bondage of greed through mindfulness and wisdom. By being aware of our desires and attachments, we can realize their impermanence and transience. Through wisdom, we can understand that pursuing external gratification does not bring true happiness, and that inner peace and liberation are the true goals. Practicing meditation and compassion also help reduce the influence of greed. Through meditation, we cultivate inner peace and mindfulness, enabling us to better face the impulses of greed. Through compassion, we cultivate care and concern for others, diminishing our self-centered desires. Buddhism teaches us that greed is one of the root causes of afflictions. Through mindfulness, wisdom, meditation, and compassion, we can reduce the influence of greed, break free from the cycle of suffering and ignorance, and attain inner peace and liberation. Greed is a misconception driven by the pursuit of external gratification and attachment to material pleasures, which traps us in an endless cycle of desire and ignorance. However, through the practice of mindfulness, wisdom, meditation, and compassion, we can gradually release ourselves from the shackles of greed and move towards inner peace and liberation. Thank you for joining us on a captivating journey, seeking wisdom and sharing this extraordinary treasure with others. Subscribe to our YouTube channel for transformative enlightenment. Radiate brilliance, exude excellence, and nurture your well-being with care. See you next time, my friends.